Hi all, welcome back to Oops with C++ session 47. In today's session, we will discuss about something interesting concept like friend concept. Okay, so then what exactly mean by friend concept? So friend concept is say before going to this friend concept, let's take some analogy. Assume you have one mobile phone. Okay, so that mobile phone anyway it is your private property, and that mobile phone who and all can access, your family members can access, right? So if somebody else want to, outside your family member, if somebody else want to access your mobile phone or maybe your private property, then they should be your friends, they have to be your friends, right? So when they are your friend, they can access your mobile by taking your permission. Something like this only, similar kind of concept only, this friend concept is like when you talk about a class, the members, you have private members, protected members, public members. Okay, so apart from public members, whatever is there in means non-public members, say private and protected, these members you cannot access outside the class. If you want to access those private members, what you have to do is you have to make use of public members only. Now assume there will be a situation where you have a global function, and or maybe currently you take it like a global function. You have a global function, and what you want is you want to access private members of that class or non-public members of that class, of a class. Then how we can achieve it? So I don't want to make use of public member function, but I want to make use of private members only. How can I do that? So for that only the friend concept is introduced here in C++. Okay. So to access non-public members of a class outside the class. So what we are doing, we are trying to access non-public members of a class. Non-public members means private or protected of a class outside the class. Outside the class, then we need to use public member functions only. Through public member functions only, we are trying to access the non-public members of a class. Okay, but by using friend concept, we can access non-public members of a class also outside the class. You can access it outside the class without by using friend concept. We'll see that programmatically how we can achieve that. What I'm meaning to say here. Okay, so by making the, how I can do, how I can achieve that, by making the outside function where we are trying to access the public non-public members of a class, you have to make it as a friend to your class. You have to say to your compiler that this function, this global function is my friend. Whenever it is trying to access private members of my class, just allow him and don't give any compilation error. So generally what we will do, what we will get is, whenever you are trying to access non-public members of a class, then outside the class, then you will get the compilation error. So we have, by making friend, you are indirectly telling to your compiler that don't give an any compile time error, any compilation error for this, because it is my friend and it is trying to access private members of my class or protected members of my class. Okay, so now then, in how many ways we can do this friend concept? So generally this friend concept can be implemented in three different ways. Just now we were discussing about one of the method, by making a global function friend to your class, or so by making a global function friend to a class, that is one way. And another way is making a member function of one class to friend of another class. So here what we are doing is, we have two different classes. A member function of one class is trying to access non-public members of another class. During that time, what you will do, how you will implement this friend concept. And third scenario is by making entire class as friend to another class. So these are the three different ways we can, or three different use cases you can say, where we are using the friend concept. Then how to write the friend concept, or how to implement the friend concept in C++. So for this, let observe the syntax. So this is the syntax here. Okay. So the syntax is, as usual, you are writing a class, my class, and in whichever global function you are trying to access the non-public members of the class, that function you have to give the declaration inside the class, and with the friend keyword. You have to give the friend keyword, and same whatever prototype declaration of this function is there, same prototype declaration you have to give here. And the definition of this function has to be present after the class definition. Okay, you cannot give this definition before this class. Okay, so because without this class your friend function won't be having what are the members of this class is present, right? So don't give definition before this, don't give the definition for this global this function before the class definition. Okay, so first class, my class, and give the friend declaration, just a prototype declaration you are prefixing with the keyword friend. Now as soon as you make this function as friend, or as soon as your compiler observes this friend concept, then what it will do is it will give complete access to your non-private members to access directly inside the global function, inside this function, friend function. Okay, so we have the points here. So by making a global function friend to a class, the global function will be able to access the non-public, that is private or protected members of the class. Okay, so this friend declaration can be provided under any access specifier of the class. See, you don't have a restriction like you have to give this friend declaration only in private section or protected section or public section. So wherever you want, you can give it. Generally, people will give in public session. That depends on your company coding standards. Okay, so now global function definition has to be present after the class declaration only. This function definition has to be present after this class definition, after this class declaration only. You should not keep it before this class. Okay, so in general, friend functions are argument, where friend functions argument will be of type class whose non-public member functions are being accessed. Generally, the arguments what we will do is in the friend functions we will take it like my class reference, or my class will be the, so means that class will be the argument. That object will be passed as an argument to this function. Okay, so this is generally this is the way to implement, but people will follow differently also. Generally, the argument will be of type of this class whose private members will be we are trying to access. So just observe one program for a better understanding purpose. Okay. Okay. Now observe here. Right. Okay. So here I have a class. Okay, my class. So here I have one private member, that is int variable, and one constructor where I am initializing this variable value. Okay, and I have one global function void display. Okay, so I am passing the my class object here. I am trying to print this in main. I have this my class obj and display obj. Now if you observe here, what is the problem? When I am passing this display obj, in display function I am directly trying to access the private member of the class, that is my class variable, that is obj dot where is the private member. You are trying to access this directly, which is an illegal operation. Okay. Now observe this, whether it is working, what is the issue, or whether it will work or not. See here, my class where is a private. Within this context you cannot access here. Okay, so it is illegal operation, you cannot access it. Then how can I access it? So now we have used our use the friend concept. Okay, so for what you have to tell your compiler that I am trying to use there is a function called display which is friend of mine and which is trying to take my private members. Okay, just add this declaration and see what will happen. Sorry, semicolon list. Yes, it's working fine. You can execute it. See, you can see the output. So no issues here. Now, what we are doing here, we are making a global function friend to a class. So what will be the argument generally passed? It will be an object of the same class will be passed as an argument for this generally. Okay, and now let's see, what I will do is I will try to give this definition here. Okay, what I will do is I will give the definition of this function here before this class. Now compile it. What you are getting? Error, my class does not name a type. Did you mean class? Okay. So what do you mean by this? It is saying line number 4. This is the, so what it is saying is you have mentioned my class. I don't know what it is because it is an user defined data type, right? If it is integer, character, float, then I know only your compiler is saying I know integer, character, float, string. Okay, but I don't know what is this my class. I don't know what type of it is. So because you have to say it is my class. So one way what I can do is before coming to this function itself, what I can do is I can give the forward declarations saying that class my class. What do you mean by forward declaration? Just like however you will give the prototype declaration for your functions, in the same way we are giving prototype declaration for your class, that is class my class. I am saying my class is of type class. Okay, let's see whether it will compile now at least. You can see this error is gone. Does not my class what it is. The confusion is clear now. We are saying it is a class, so that error we are not getting. Now what error we are getting? Invalid use of incomplete type const class my class. Okay, so what do you mean by that? Line number 7. Here I am using this obj.where, right? So but how, before creating the class itself, before giving the definition of this class itself, how you will come to know this? The class will be having the variable called var. Okay, because this is an incomplete class. Okay, maybe you have idea, but if for your compiler, this is an incomplete class. It is not yet declared or defined. It is not yet defined. So where it is defined, it is defined here only. Okay, so because without giving the definition for this class, if you are trying to access this, then you will get an error because your compiler don't know whether your class is having variable or some other values, some what it is having, it doesn't know, right? So this is not allowed. Then what do we have to do then? I will go whatever I said. So and this forward declaration is not required now. Now compile it. Compile successfully. We are getting the okay. So this is how we can make global function friend to class. Okay, just give the prototype declaration of the global function inside the class by prefixing with friend keyword. With this, you will be able to access the private members of your class. Okay. So few points to be remembered in this session. So that is using friend concept, a non-member function of a class can have direct access to its non-public member functions. A non-member function means that is not a member function of your class. That is a global function, or it may be member function of some other class, or it may be member function of some other class, or it may be a global function. But it is not part of your class. But even then, that non-member function is trying to access your. It will be able to access the non-public members of your class by making use of friend concept. So the outside function which is trying to access the non-public members of the class has to be declared as a friend inside the class. Just like this, however we have this, right? The declaration, it has to be there. Okay. So now, definition of the friend function has to be present after the class declaration only. We have seen if I give the function definition before class itself means we are what error we are getting, we have seen, right? So and if you are even though if you are giving the forward declaration of the class, then it will say incomplete class. You cannot use the data members for an incomplete class because class is not yet defined. How can you make use of the incomplete class data members or incomplete class members? So next is friend declaration can be present anywhere inside the class. There is no restriction on this. Okay, means you can give this friend declaration anywhere, either private, protected, or public session. Okay, so okay, that's for today. Thanks for watching.